And welcome back to Late Night Lately, the late night show. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's not. You'll figure it out when and when it doesn't. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the late night show for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, late night podcast. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Welcome back, episode 25. I did not do one last week like I planned on because I was just so friggin' tired. And there's no monologue again this week because, quite frankly, if you listen to this show, if you also listen to the Constitutionals podcast, which is the premier podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com, like I just said, it's a website. Go there. I did my catchphrase. You'll also know that I had two interviews before this. I interviewed two comedians before this. So I'm a little strained right now when it comes to, quite frankly, I knew one of them was happening. And then the second one happened at the last moment. I was like, all right, I got time. I'm ready to do this. So I just wanted to actually get in this show. Not like I forgot, not act like I forgot the RSS feed existed. Next week, there'll be a monologue. I'll do something. This week in late night was not a packed one. There was no new Seth Meyers. There was no new Jimmy Fallon. They were off this week. But Conan did appear on the Tonight Show 2 weeks ago, and that was fantastic to see. Johnny Knoxville did as well, and it was good to see Conan back in that studio. For the first, I don't think that was in his original studio, but just back in the Tonight Show, talking about his work as a host of that show at one point in time. And Seth actually appeared. Seth Meyers, Late Night with Seth, he appeared on Jimmy Kimmel this week to talk about, I guess, the Lonely Island podcast. I think that's what it was. That was a great appearance. That was a great appearance, and it's cool just to have two hosts just talk. It's very interesting because they're, back when Carson was hosting, back when, even the early days of Letterman too, it was, you didn't hang out with the other hosts. You didn't talk about them. And if somebody appeared on your show, then they were not allowed to appear on someone else's show for a period of time. But those rules are all out the window. I mean, not even rules. They were unwritten rules, and nobody needed them. That's stupid. It's fine. Let people exist. I have to sneeze. It's going to come at some point. I want to keep talking. Hey! I'm back. This is how loose this show is. It's not like the Constitutionals. I can't. That show is so produced. This show is so loose, baby. So loose, baby. But Seth was on. Andy Samberg popped in too during Seth's segment with Kimmel, as well as Josh Myers, Seth's brother. And Kimmel, has had, I think, a really big resurgence, especially with the Trump talking about him during the Oscars, and just Kimmel's just a funny person all around. I do think that him saying that Will Smith being arrested should be arrested after the Oscar slap is very problematic, but that's neither here nor there. I just think he doesn't hire people of color. I've seen the people that work there. Not very diverse. However, it is just interesting to see, because Kimmel, the way he writes his monologue, obviously all these monologues are written compared to mine, but it is just, he's just so conversational with it. It seems like we are spending 12 to 13 minutes and he has a list of topics to talk about, and he just kind of rattles them off, and it really makes sense and works for him. I don't know if anyone else did that. I don't think it would really work out, because the off the cuff funny is different than prepared funny. So Kimmel had Seth on, and then the let's go to, I have 7 different tabs open. Colbert had an interesting week. I like Colbert. He's a funny guy. For him, it is, I think we're still a lot of times, and this isn't like a natural thing for him, but a lot of times they're just kind of the show rather is resting on the idea that people know Steven and they expect him to be funny no matter what he says. And sometimes I'll watch a monologue, and it's not all the time, but sometimes I'll watch a monologue or an interview, and people will just are already pre-laughing. Like if Will Ferrell walked out in his interview for a Conan, during a Conan segment, if he just walked out and people were just already laughing because they expect something to happen. It is. I wish I didn't use another talk show as an example, but you get what I'm saying. You know, if Will Ferrell pops up in a scene and the other guys, and people are already going ha ha ha, you know, this just it doesn't really bode well for that monologue for Colbert when that happens, and I just, you know, it just doesn't work for me sometimes, and maybe that's just the part of me where I'm going. Maybe it's the audience. Maybe it's me. Who knows? But Colbert had the actress Anna Sawai from Shogun. I think that show, I've seen minutes of it. I'm going to watch it. I've just seen minutes of it. And I just need to sit down and put my time to it. But he had her on, and that was fantastic. A good interview, mostly because I'm in love with her. Kidding. But yeah, there you go. I'm trying to find the Seth Meyers one so I can also link to that one in the future. Don't start playing. Okay. The Daily Show. The Daily Show this week was, again, Jon Stewart came back, obviously, on a Monday, but Dulce Sloan had her chance to host again. I think, don't quote me on this, this might be the first time she's had to host since they went to strike, since the writers went striking in the summer, which is unfortunate. She has not had a lot of chances in the spotlight on this show in the host seat compared to Michael Costa and Ronnie Chang and Jordan Klepper and Desi Leidig. It just seems kind of a bit unfair that she got that one episode, and then I think she may have gotten another episode after the fact. But I don't think she's hosted for an entire week. And now she was able to. And you know what? She's funny. They brought back John Leguizamo to do the... I say she's funny as if people don't know that. That's why she was hired to the show. John Leguizamo to do the thing that Charlamagne the God and Leslie Jones both did. And that is to do a one-off story, and that was very good. Stewart is not doing. He's doing a monologue, and then he's doing a long-form interview, which I guess is what's going to be the thing of note for the rest of this season, with him in the driver's seat, and he's not really doing these bits that you'll see for a typical episode of The Daily Show when there is just like a regular host, like with Desi Leidig or Dulce Sloan. Interesting. And then also, what I also noticed is that Josh Johnson, someone who I've talked to twice, someone I've interviewed twice, you can check out my interviews on cpluscomedy.com. He is basically a featured player, not a full-time correspondent. He's a writer on the show, but he's also somebody who's featured on episodes often. During the week of Easter, I think he appeared twice. It seems as though they just use him as a character, and it's great. I like it. I have nothing negative to say about it. What's the video I'll link in this one? I want to link the John Leguizamo, but I also want to give Dulce her time. How about this bodega, the one where Trump goes to a bodega? There we go. Yeah, her monologue. I never talk about Last Week Tonight. Do I need to? It's going to win the Oscars. After Midnight this week did its best. It did not have, not everybody was known by me, but when they had people I knew, I was in love. They had people like Utkarsh Ambekar, They also had people like Betsy Sidaro. They also had, God, I know her name, Patty Guggenheim. She's fantastic. And this show really works when it's people and also people who are just abhorrently funny. They can just, like, Felipe Esparza is just a very funny person outright. Marcela Arguello is a very funny person. And then when they're joined by people I don't know as well, like Morgan Murphy, or when it's somebody, full disclosure, I did not see last night's episode, but when it does look like people like Josh Sharp and John Lovett. I know John Lovett. Those, when somebody's paired with people that you don't know as well, they can help elevate them too. So that's good. And Taylor's doing a great job. Was I ambivalent, and was I trepidatious about her before? I don't think so, because I know she's a comedian whose comedy I like. And I've seen her live. I think she came when Conan came to Atlanta with his tour with Flula and maybe James Veitch and Ron Funches. When I went to that alone, and I had floor seats. And I was thinking about this today because I guess Conan has a new travel log with some fans that they released on Max, but I was thinking about this today, and I'm not really a fan of when Conan talks to fans. I think, like, I don't really care. I don't, and I know, and the thing is, I think it's because I talk to so many people in the industry that I'm just kind of like, it's just nothing to me. But then when somebody sees somebody like Conan, or when they see, Harrison Ford walking around, they're like, duh! And I'm just like, yeah, I know. Even though I'm 10 people removed, yeah, I know. I know that I've seen people in that caliber, and I don't know. I'm gonna watch the show because I'll support Conan, and but I just don't care about his interactions with regular people. It just doesn't matter to me. And I don't. And you know what? I don't really care about the podcast. Get back to hosting a late night show. Get back to hosting a real show, bud. But also, he's a big supporter of Taylor Tomlinson. Same thing with Stephen Colbert. He's a big supporter of Taylor Tomlinson. So maybe they're going to help bring in a new generation. Slowly but surely. This took a while to get somebody my age to a point like this. Well, Lily hosted Carson Daly's time slot too. But, it's whatever. What was I talking about? I genuinely have no idea what I was talking about. Okay. What I was thinking about this week. I try to have a topic for this show because I can't just talk about what happened that week in late night. Something that really stuck out. Well, I think we might have the title for this. Stuck out. Something that really stood out to me. This week. I subscribed to the Letterman channel on YouTube. And every so often, I'll just start watching a bunch of clips. And I think I watched the fan request. I'm looking at my YouTube right now. It's either the fan request for Johnny Carson lets David stump the band, or it was the Dwayne The Rock Johnson changed his presidential vote, which is a whole different topic on its own. But I watched either one of those. And I was looking at the set of Letterman, and he had at that point hosted, he's hosted the morning show, he's hosted the late night show, and what's fascinating to me is how an entire set can be its own personality for what a show is. For instance, Jimmy Kimmel has a giant video screen that is used in for its for whatever it is used for, and oftentimes so if you look at Jimmy Kimmel in the background, they have maybe I'll just window capture this. It's not often that I do this, so I'm going to go ahead and window cap. I'm not going to show you what other tabs are open. It's all YouTube stuff. You don't want to see that boring thing. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 8 or 9 YouTube. Look at that. It's too many YouTube things. But if you're watching the video, you can see that it's so interesting that, behind him, they're showing a tag for Winger Singing, which is a segment that they just started. But behind him, it's a nighttime thing. You don't see my mouse cursor. It's a nighttime thing. It's a late night thing, and that's great. And for other people, for Conan, it was like a plastic set. Like it was like cardboard wooden set. He could reach behind after his desk and like kind of rip everything up. For Colbert, it's completely different. For Seth, it's just like a flat background, or curved background, I guess. But for Kimmel, that's a huge video screen, and then they utilize it here and turn it into whatever they want it to be. Especially when people come in and they do video, chats with somebody across the country who's winning a prize or something, or he's interviewing a dog or whatever. Then that person pops up on the Cisco feed in the back. And I think they use that so well. Like that video screen really works out for them. I don't know how much power it takes. I don't know how it works for them, but that it works out well. And then, so something that big and intricate works for him, but the same thing can't be said for let's go to John Oliver. His show works for him because everything feels so intimate. It's so small and yes, he is on a big stage that we often see has like a giant. I thought that was this episode, but apparently not. That often has like a giant. They can bring out a car, they can bring out an RV, they can bring thousands of tennis balls out or something. But this works for him because he's talking to you and he's just telling you long form stories. And that's why that can be good for his stuff. But for Letterman, that really kind of just spurred in a conjunction with Kimmel, that really just kind of spurred me thinking, how are these sets are made for not Kimmel, for Fallon, Jimmy Fallon during the pandemic. They had I don't think I'll be able to find a video from the pandemic for them. But they changed their entire. I might be able to find. You know what? Because I have a playlist of videos from talk shows, and I am good at keeping things talk show bests organized. But during the pandemic, they rearranged everything. And it was so cool to see him sitting on a stool. Cool is not the word I want to use. It was nice to see him sitting on a stool and just kind of working in that way. I don't think I can find anything. But you know what? Speaking of pandemic and speaking of intimate, Conan had to be intimate during his time, and he was at Largo, the Cornet, I believe, in Los Angeles, and you can see the band off of Bill Hader's shoulder, but it's just him it's the two of them in front of this crowd of masked people, and they're sitting in two chairs, and that's what they had to deal with, and that's how it works for them. People are still getting tested, people are still getting vaccinated, everything like that, and that really worked for them. As opposed to, I'm going to click on a random video. Here's one with Jimmy Pardo. This set was the set I'm talking about where Conan could reach behind him and there was all this stuff. And even then, they had to change that set when he went down to a smaller studio during that same TBS run. But I liked it all. It just is so fascinating to me how each set is different and utilized. Now, for the Daily Show, I do think that they have this giant set that is kind of mismatched with them because they do have two video screens off to the sides where they can use as correspondents are set in different places. They can be like, oh, this one's outside of the Manhattan office. This one, Manhattan trial office of Donald Trump trial office. And then the other one, and then, someone else is at a food hall in Poughkeepsie, Iowa, but they're really just both in the studio, which is very interesting and very funny. This is a true anecdote. When I first started watching The Daily Show, and I was in, I don't know, maybe high school, probably high school. I thought, and this will show you how stupid I am. I genuinely thought that they would send the correspondents out to these places, and I'm not talking about the pre-tapes. I'm talking about I thought they were like Jon Stewart was talking to, I don't know who, Rob Corddry. I couldn't think of anybody quick enough. Rob Corddry, who did work on the Daily Show, or Steve Carell or Stephen Colbert. I did think that they were off somewhere, at some place across the country, and I was like, they really let these people do these funny things this far away? Like, whoa, that's so great. That's how the news should always work. But no, it's not how it works. That's stupid. Big old dummy. Same thing, speaking of a talk show that I believe is real, and also Jimmy Kimmel earlier, The Man Show. I watched that so young. And I love seeing the women bounce on the trampoline. That's a very true fact. But also I saw an episode where, and it was clearly a joke. A guy ripped off his own arm, and I can see it in my head right now. And it was like, they had like, fake, I don't know if they had fake blood, but I think they did. They probably did. But they had like, fake strands of arm and stuff, and he was holding the arm in his hand. And I thought that was real, and I was scared. I was like, oh my God, that guy ripped off his own arm. What's going to happen? And people are like laughing, and I'm like, oh, I guess it's funny. I don't know. That's a very real thing that happened to me. Anyway, and then also, let's mention, I mentioned everybody else's sets. After midnight, rather. It's intimate. I think the crowd's too close. They laugh and clap too much, which is what they're supposed to do. But, that show is made with little to no money, but they do make really good use of that video screen that's sitting off of Taylor's right shoulder. So I think that's great. Anyway, that's my rundown of the sets. That's all the shows that I watched. Anyway, listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where I talk to your favorite people in the industry. You can see a video version of this show, as well as the other shows on youtube.com/cpluscomedy. The other shows include the Constitutionals podcast, as well as, which is the premier entertainment business news show, as well as LinkedIn Logs, which is the jobs podcast. You can follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at cpluscomedy. Follow me on those platforms at Chad Black White. Rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. Who cares? Go watch the interviews on youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where I interview your favorite people. All right, bye.